Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic just got officially announced for UFC 295, and it's going to be fantastic. But I've got something more important to announce than this fight, and it is that I am growing out a mullet. And you can see it's a work in progress, but it's on its way, and it's going to be beautiful when it is completed. Now, let's talk about this fight. Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. It seems to be like the fight to make, but I wouldn't really have minded Sergey Pavlovich versus Jon Jones, because Sergey Pavlovich has fought, I think, like 4 times since Stipe Miocic's last fight. And a fun fact for you guys, you always come here for the fun facts. Stipe Miocic has been less active than Jon Jones. He has fought 5 times in the last 5.5 years, where Jon Jones has fought 5 times in the last 4.5 years. That's insane. He's literally been more active than Jon Jones, and on top of that, he hasn't fought for over 2 years. And by the time that this fight does happen, it's going to be at the end of the year. He wouldn't have fought for like 2.5 years. So Stipe Miocic has really been sitting away and not doing a lot, I would say. And I think that Jon Jones is going to come out there, and I do believe that Jon Jones will beat Stipe Miocic in this matchup in the main event of UFC 295. And it seems like we're going to be getting a crazy co-main event, because it is rumored that Leon Edwards will take on Colby Covington in the co-main event of this event, which will be absolutely ridiculous. Like, it would be insane if that actually happened. But we're here to talk about this fight, and I'm going to pick Jon Jones to win. I do think Jon Jones can beat Stipe. Stipe is like the greatest heavyweight of all time, I believe. There's not really too much to discuss there. He has done the most title defenses and all that sort of thing. But he was the champion for a long time. Now, he was the champion for a long time because he didn't defend his belt very often, but he still was the champion for a long time, and he did beat Daniel Cormier twice, which was very impressive after coming off that loss by first round KO. Now, he did lose to Ngannou recently, but Jon Jones would have beaten Ngannou. We know that by now, and I think he will just go out there and beat Stipe. I think that Jon Jones can out-wrestle Stipe if he wants to, and I think maybe you could see Jon Jones do some striking against Stipe Miocic, because one thing that we do know is that once these heavyweights go down to light heavyweight, they've just got nothing. They've just got nothing. Like, Tanner Boser went down to light heavyweight, and he got absolutely destroyed by Ian Cutelaba. And Jailton Almeida, a light heavyweight, come up to heavyweight, and now he's just dominating these guys. Carl Williams went up from light heavyweight, and he's dominating guys. Not really dominating guys, but he's undefeated in the UFC at heavyweight now. So, I think the skill set that Jon Jones has from being a light heavyweight does transfer over to being a heavyweight, and I do think he does beat Stipe. Now, we didn't see much of Jon Jones whatsoever, because he did manage to defeat a good friend, Cyril Gane, very, very quickly, and it was embarrassing, because I did pick Cyril Gane to win that matchup, but the reason why I picked him to beat Cyril Gane was because I just didn't know what Jon Jones was going to look like when he did move up, and now we know. And I think he can go out there and beat Stipe. I do. I mean, Stipe hasn't fought for years. We don't really know what Stipe's been up to. Has he been training? Has he been changing his style? The last 2 years, has Stipe been training every single day, trying to work on his boxing so he can be a pure boxer? Has he been working on Taekwondo so he can throw spinning back kicks? Nobody knows what Stipe's been up to, but from what I've seen from Stipe, he can mix up the wrestling with the striking, mixed up the wrestling against Ngannou when he defeated Ngannou 5.5 years ago. That's how inactive Stipe Miocic has been. We still talk about that fight, even though it was 5.5 years ago. Absolutely ridiculous. But I think Jon Jones he's proven himself at heavyweight. He's proven himself at light heavyweight. He's proven himself throughout his whole career that he can defeat guys like Stipe Miocic. I think he can take down Stipe Miocic, and he might even be bigger than Stipe, because Jon Jones and Stipe have the same height, but we saw how big Jon Jones was when he fought against Cyril Gane. He weighed in at almost 250 pounds, and Stipe last weighed in at 234 pounds when he took on Ngannou last time. So maybe you see Jon Jones weigh in heavier than Stipe Miocic. I wouldn't even be that surprised. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Jon Jones goes out there. He can strike, he can wrestle, he can transfer as just as better skill set as a light heavyweight up to heavyweight, because we've seen so many times now. I just gave you guys, like 2-3 examples of fighters that transferred either up to heavyweight or down to light heavyweight. The skills just isn't the same. The guys at heavyweight, they're just not as technical as the guys at light heavyweight. And then when the light heavyweight guys aren't as technical as the middleweights, and vice versa. Obviously, these kind of things that you can pick out, like you could say Jamal Hill is a very technical striker, and his striking's probably good enough to be a technical striker at middleweight. And you could say as well, Adesanya is probably a technical striker enough to be a technical striker at welterweight. You guys know what I mean. It's transferable. There's always some outliners, but as a generalization, the light heavyweight guys are more technical than the heavyweights. And I think Jon Jones has gone out there and beaten light heavyweights in the past. Now he's a heavyweight. He can transfer his skill set to heavyweight. And I think he can go out there. I think he can wrestle Stipe if he wants to. I think he can strike with Stipe if he wants to. We don't know what a 41-year-old Stipe is going to look like, whereas Jon Jones, at least he fought recently, right? He fought 4 months ago. And for Jon Jones, recently, I mean, having him fight every 6 months is pretty ideal. And the thing is, as well, is Jones going to retire? Is this Jones' retirement fight? Because he said that his ideal situation would be to retire after beating Stipe Miocic. So, are we really going to see Jon Jones retire and not fight Sergey Pavlovich? And then Sergey Pavlovich, I mean, not even to any fault of his own, is now going to have an asterisk on his whole career. Because if Sergey Pavlovich goes out there and fights, let's say, maybe like Tom Aspinall for the vacant belt, then unfortunately for Sergey Pavlovich, he's got an asterisk on his entire career that he never fought Jon Jones. But it wasn't even his fault that Jon Jones didn't want to fight him. Well, I mean, not saying that. I'm just saying that he's thinking of retiring because he's 36 years old. So it makes sense for him to not really want to fight. So who knows? Who knows? Is this Jon Jones' retirement fight against Stipe Miocic? Is it Stipe's retirement fight against Jon Jones? We don't really know for sure, but it seems like Jones wants to retire, and if Jones wants to retire, then good for him. You know, he's retired as a double champion. We saw how good he was at light heavyweight. We saw how good he is at heavyweight. But it's just sad for Sergey because now Sergey is going to retire. Not retire, so if Sergey goes out there and becomes a champion, or that future champion, whoever it is, especially if it's Cyril Gane, is going to have that asterisk of they never beat Jon Jones as a heavyweight. Or even then, in Sergey's case as well, he never beat Stipe Miocic, or he never beats Francis Ngannou. So there's a lot of unfortunate sort of things about this potentially being a retirement fight, but when it comes down to the matchup, I do believe Jon Jones wins. I don't know what Stipe looks like at 41 years old. Does anyone know what Stipe looks like at 41? I mean, he hasn't fought for 2 years, and the last time we saw him fight, he tried to get in a firefight with Francis Ngannou and ended up getting him clipped. So who knows? I'm going to go with Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones beats him. I think Jon Jones wins in the first 3 rounds by ground and pound TKO, or maybe even by a submission. Who knows? I just think he's going to be more technical. He's going to be faster. And I think he can do what he wants with Stipe anywhere. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. UFC 290 Fight Companion tomorrow. If you're watching this the day after, then you've probably either missed the companion. But I'll do live fight companions. I've got a highlight video. It was hilarious. I thought it was funny. Maybe it's weird to think that your own highlights are funny, but I thought it was fucking hilarious. So anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate everything.